much for both our guests for sharing that insight with us. Please stay with us as we will stay on this. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has launched a blistering personal attack on the Supreme Court justices who struck down his global tariffs, including two of his own appointees, Amy Coney and Barrett and Neil Gorsuch. He has called the ruling terrible, labeled the justices disloyal and unpatriotic, and alleged foreign influence swayed the decision. Chief Justice John Roberts, Barrett, and Gorsuch joined the three liberal justices in the 6-3 ruling. Meanwhile, Trump has praised the conservative justices who supported him, particularly Brett Kavanaugh, calling him a genius. Vice President J.D. Vance also condemned the decision as lawlessness from the court. Now we welcome back Mr. Matthew Vadam for this. Thank you, Mr. Vadam, for staying with us.
Sure.
Now, what are the broader political consequences of these remarks by President Trump, and also by the decision in terms of the balance of power between White House and Congress now?
Well, this is a huge blow to President Trump. A huge loss of prestige, and tariffs were the centerpiece of his economic policy, and for them to be struck down by the Supreme Court is a huge deal, or as he would say, a huge deal. It's hard to calculate how much damage it's going to do to his political capital, to his strength as a politician. There are already calls. Somebody was already mocking him. The Democratic governor of California, Gavin Newsom, was already mocking him, saying, we want our consumers want their refunds for these illegal tariffs that you levied on them. So it's going to be a political issue for a while. And Trump is going to levy new tariffs, but under federal laws where he has less freedom. The statute that he used, that the Supreme Court said he couldn't use, IEPA, made it fairly easy for the president to impose tariffs. But the other statutes that he's now going to be using they're more labor intensive. You have to do more in order to impose the tariffs. So, is this going to affect President Trump long term in terms of his effectiveness as a leader? It may, because a lot of lawmakers are going to view him as as a weak leader, because he lost a major battle in a forum where he's supposed to win. Republicans have appointed 6 out of the 9 sitting justices of the Supreme Court. So a lot of people assumed that the Supreme Court was going to hand him a victory, but it did not. And this is going to be harmful to President Trump. It's hard to say how harmful it's going to be, though, over the long term.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vadam, for sharing that. I would like to also welcome back Ms. Nikore for this. Now, with more than $175 billion collected under the now invalidated tariffs, what economic and political fallout could arise if refunds are required, especially for, in relations with major trading partners globally?
There's going to be major pandemonium and chaos around the refunds, because the amounts are not less. For individual traders, individual trading companies based in the US, they have also paid a share of the tariffs. There are exporters who've paid a share of the tariffs. And all of these are definitely going to go into litigation, and the first cases of these are going to be the most critical, because it's not only the US government which has to issue refunds. The US government is the ultimate recipient of the tariff proceeds, but In the interim, there are also private companies that have taken tariffs from exporters and have taken extra amounts from exporters. So imagine an exporter sitting in a global south country like India or Bangladesh. How do they litigate against the export traders and agencies who have charged them extra because of the tariffs so that they can pay tariffs in the US? I mean, this entire chain is going to be a legal nightmare, and I do think that this will overall create a lot of chaos and loss of trust amongst business to business relationships, because if I'm an exporter and I find that the person I've been doing trade with for say 10 years overcharged me on tariffs, that shakes the core of my entire trading relationship. So I think this is going to send shockwaves down the industry level as well, if the industry is not quick to make these refunds, even as they wait for the government to actually issue proceeds. So I do think that this is a matter of great chaos and mayhem is going to be upon us.
Yes, we will be eyeing that. Thank you for highlighting that to both our guests. Please stay with us as we stay on this. Now, staying on this, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has announced that his office would initiate several new investigations under Section 301, covering most major trading partners. These investigations will address issues such as pharmaceutical pricing, forced labor, and unfair practices against U.S. tech companies. The move follows the Supreme Court's decision to strike down Trump's global tariffs, but Greer has reassured that all trade agreements negotiated by President Trump would remain in effect. The investigations will have an accelerated timeline, and tariffs could be imposed if unfair practices are found. Now we welcome back our guests. First, I would like to go back to Mr. Matthew Vadrum for this. Thank you very much, Mr. Vadrum, for staying with us. Now, as we see that USTR is expecting a new investigation under Section 301. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, the USTR, as you called it, the United States Trade Representative's Office, conducts investigations into unfair, trade practices, practices like, dumping or collusion as to price, and other unfair trade practices. And I guess the USTR has said that they want to ramp up. They want to ramp up pressure on trading partners to make sure that they're playing fair, as it were. And this is the kind of thing that I would expect for the Trump administration after it suffered a fairly humiliating defeat at the Supreme Court earlier today, when its reciprocal tariffs were struck down as illegal. So these sorts of investigations happen all the time, but it may be that the Trump administration wants to make a show of it and wants to ramp up these investigations, to score political points. That would be my guess.
Thank you for sharing that. I would like to also welcome back Ms. Nikore. Thank you very much, Ms. Nikore, for staying with us. Would you like to add something or share more building on my question and Mr. Vadrum's answer?
No, absolutely. I think, the way we are sort of seeing these events unfold, and the fact that the US Supreme Court has issued no clarification on the refunds is definitely concerning. I think that's my first point of concern. My second point of concern is really around the way the deals are being mentioned, and also the new custom duties that President Trump has announced today. Now he's invoked another law, and which was also a 1974 law, in order to actually introduce a 10% custom duty. Now people are sort of saying, and the clarifications that have sort of come till now, and I'm sure a lot of people are still confused about how this is going to play out, is that those custom duties are in addition to the illegal tariffs. But if those tariffs were illegal, then when are they actually going to stop? We still need the US government to issue directives to export agents and exporting and importing agencies to say you no longer need to charge tariffs. But this has actually not been done. And we're still seeing that the custom duties have also been imposed. Are these custom duties also going to be levied on countries that have secured trade deals with the US? Again, the president's announcement seems to make it sound that it does, that they will, and all countries will be, will be subject to these 10% custom duties. But again, we don't have an official clarification from the US government. And also, what is the role of Congress in all of this? I mean, Congress is supposed to, after 150 days, say that these 10% custom duties are legally valid or not, and they should also be weighing in on this ruling, which is coming from the Supreme Court. But we've seen that the congressional representatives have been woefully silent. So I do think that in this situation, the entire world is looking at the entire US system and is saying, you know what, maybe we are better off making trade deals with each other. And I think in this context, India's performance on its several trade deals, nearly 36 trade deals with other countries besides the US that have come through in the last 3 to 4 months, definitely stands out, as does, the performance of countries within the SCO like China and Russia, who have also secured several trade deals. And Europe, of course, which is the center of several trade deals with India, with the Latin American countries, with the UK. So I think the rest of the world is sort of saying, we don't want this confusion. We're happy to trade with each other.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that. We will be eyeing that. With that, I would like to thank both our guests, Ms. Nikore and Mr. Vadam, for joining us and sharing that insight throughout. Thank you.